Good morning, everybody. We are back. I've got to say, I've genuinely missed doing these podcasts. I've genuinely missed doing my newsletter. And it feels awesome to be back. Although, I can't lie, I feel like that when you don't work over the Christmas period, then working again, it feels weird. You don't know where to start. You've got a mountain of stuff to do. I'm like, And so I'm recording this on Tuesday. I think it's Tuesday. I still don't know what day it is. Anyway, the 2nd of January. Is it Tuesday? And it is Tuesday. I just pulled it up. We actually go on holiday tomorrow, flying from Birmingham, and we're driving down by tomorrow, and then we're flying on Thursday morning to Tenerife for 7 nights. The great thing is the kids are due back at school to the following week anyway. So yeah, it's been a weird period. So we've had all this time off, and then we're going on hold again. So I've been trying to catch up on emails and do a little bits for these last couple of days. And it's great to be back. So what I'm going to try and do, record tomorrow morning, because we're not set off till 1 p.m., but I need to get my hair cut and I need to take the car in to get cleaned and pack. And I'm going to try and record some podcasts. So we've got some content going out on Friday, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then after that, it will be every single day. I'm going to do more interviews as well. So if you want to be interviewed on the podcast, then let me know. Hit me up, deanbooty@icloud.com. I would love to interview anybody and everybody in self-storage. It doesn't matter if you've got one site. It doesn't matter if you've got 50 sites, because you always are relatable. One site, you might think you've got nothing to share, but I promise you, I can learn from somebody with one site. And the people who don't believe they can learn from every person out there, they're the people who are not going to grow. It doesn't matter who you are, what position you are. We can all learn and have a different insight to somebody else's journey of self-storage. So it would be amazing if you wanted to come on, because I think that the way I can network and the way I can get to know people better, and I enjoy it, is interviewing more. So I'm going to try and do 50 podcast episodes in this next year, which will be absolutely amazing. I've got a list now, about 26 people. Loads of people have contacted me asking me to go on, and it'll be awesome. So if you want to be on, I'm going to start the interviews. I'm going to start I don't even like calling them interviews. I'm going to start doing the interviews sometime in middle of January or late January. Right, so today's episode is all about comparing 2023 to 2022. Now, I feel like we need to have a caveat here, because 2022 was the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic. And so we all know that we was inflated, and I did a podcast. Self-storage is inflated, by the way. I did a podcast sometime in 2022 saying, look, winter is coming. That's what I called it. Have a look through the podcast feed. I can't remember what number it was, but pat on the back, Dino. We knew that it just couldn't continue. We knew that I was talking to people in the industry, and people were thinking that this was going to continue forever. And it wasn't. It always has to revert back to the norm. Sometimes you have good times and sometimes you have bad times, but this too will pass. And unfortunately, 2022, 2019, that massive spike we had for self-storage, it's like a tide. It comes in and it has to come out at some point. And so 2023, I believe a lot of that pandemic has come out, and what we're seeing now is back to normality. So in 2022, the end of 2022, I was worried about 2023. I thought it was going to be not a car crash, but it was certainly going to revert back to normality. It's probably, looking at the figures and the data, it's probably performed better than I would have thought. In America, if you're listening to this, I know I've been listening to blooming loads of podcasts over Christmas and speaking to loads of people in America, and they are having a real tough time. I don't see, and by the way, tough time, it's subjective. It's not tough times as like, I don't know, the wedding industry during the pandemic. It's just reverting back to normality. Those people who bought sites during the pandemic and was expecting it to continue, you're in a world of pain right now. But the people who I follow and look up to, they were suggesting this couldn't continue, and they have, every time they price up a site, there's an element of stupidity, they call it, and it's perfect, because What happens if you're wrong? What happens if your predictions are wrong? What happens if you've got the cash flow wrong? Can you still sustain it? So we need that buffer. We need that area of stupidity because we're going to get things wrong. We can't predict the market. And yeah, in 2023, I believe that was all about that. So yeah, I do believe that it was a little bit better than I actually expected. What do I expect for 2024? I think it's going to be a really, really good year. Yeah, I don't. There's a number of reasons, but it's a lot. Not a hunch. Not a hunch sounds really unprofessional. We can't say a hunch, but no, I do expect it to be a better year. I believe that there wasn't as many people moving houses in 2022, and it's almost like that fizz in a bottle where it has to go somewhere. At some point, it has to revert back to normality again. And because there wasn't that many house movers, then there has to be more this time round. And also interest rates. People are coming out of mortgages and they're going to have to get new interest rates, and they're going to have to either downsize or they're going to have to look at their current situation and think, well, do you know what? I might as well move because before, if it was, so for example, I'm at 1.8 for nearly £1 million for a mortgage. And no, that's not true. No, the house is valued at, the house is valued somewhere around there, but I think we was taking like £650,000 mortgage. And so right now at 1.8, I can't even think about moving because I'm on a fixed rate until a year in October. And then a year October, I can start looking at moving again, or potentially moving if we wanted to, because I'm thinking, well, I've got to pay whatever interest rate is going to be, 3, 4, 5, whatever it is. Hopefully not that much. And so I've got to pay it anyway. So is there an opportunity? Is there another house that I want to move to? Is there a better house? Can we upscale? And so that's a question mark once your mortgage cycle comes to an end, the fixed rate. And so people are coming out of people are approaching the end of their fixed rate. So then there's going to be movement. Movement is good for self-storage. When you're stagnant and people aren't moving, that's when we have a problem. So I do believe in 2023, it wasn't as bad as I maybe predicted or thought, but it still wasn't an amazing year for self-storage as a whole. We've had better years, we've had worse years, but I do think in 2024 it's going to be better. Right, so here we go. Out of my 5 sites, just doing a newsletter now, and MrSelfStorage.com, we've documented all this in the newsletter. Normally, I do the content first on the newsletter, and I do a podcast afterwards. But with it being time sensitive, i.e. comparing the different years, I thought it best to do a podcast straight away. So we've got 5 sites. Obviously, we can't compare all sites. Like Mansfield only opened in 2023, so we've got nothing to compare it against. Wrexham, we only purchased it in February 2023, and the information, the data we've got from a previous owners, it was a spreadsheet, so we don't really have the information. It wasn't as robust as what we would do, so I can't really compare it. Clough Road, we didn't open the site until January 22, so we can't really compare because obviously we're in lease up, so we can't really compare that 2022 to 2023. I will give you some data on that, but we can't really compare it and use any of that data as information moving forward. However, Beverley and Willoughby we can do. So Willoughby opened in 2017. Either 2017 or 2016. I think it's 2017, but I don't know. Beverley opened in 2012, so we can compare. Right, let's have a look at Willoughby first of all. We'll compare revenue and we'll compare square foot, and we'll see the difference. And then from that, we get a little bit of a picture. Right, so the true period revenue in 2022 was this is from January to end of December. So January 1st to December the 31st. We took at Willoughby, this is true period revenue, so this is like a revenue metrics that Space Manager uses. We took 880,000. I'm going to round it, rounding down on this occasion. So 880,000 in 2022. In 2023, we took 870,000. So there was a £10,000 shortfall. So the difference was £10,000. 2022 won. I was expecting And by the way, we're going to do predictions as well, what I think will happen at Willoughby. So I was expecting, if I'm honest, probably a little bit worse. However, I know the reason why it's not worse. And the reason it's not worse is because of our revenue management. We have become more aggressive with our revenue management. And there's two reasons for this. Number one, speaking to Ben from Attic. Great insight into what he's doing. And so he really helped me. There's like a glass ceiling sometimes of what you think you can do and push in terms of price increases. Speaking to him, it smashed through that glass ceiling. So a massive shout out to Ben. But also, I mean, all the masterminds in America. I said all the masterminds. I mean one. I mean one mastermind in America for self-storage. And listening to them and what happens there has really opened my eyes, and seeing what the REITs are doing. So the REITs are the big boys in America, and seeing the price increases that they're putting through. And so again, it's smashed through that glass ceiling I had. And so the only reason why we're only £10,000 short from 2022 to 2023 is because of the revenue management we're doing. We are really aggressive with price increases. And from the data we have, we can see there's no correlation between move outs and a price increase, or very, very little, a lot less than what people think. Right, square foot. So the square foot at the end of 2022 was 31,945. That was occupied. Check this out. Square foot occupied at the end of 2023 was 27,955. Wow. So we lost over 10%. Incredible. So the difference is 3,990 square foot. So we lost over 10%. However, in terms of revenue, it was a ridiculous public maths. I feel real nervous now trying to work out exactly what we've lost. 10% of, right, here we go. I'm going to try and do it. Right. Do you know what? I'm going to pause it so you guys are bored of me trying to do this, and then I don't get all flustered, go red and everything. Here we go. I'm back. I promise you that literally took me 10 seconds because I didn't have a pressure of you guys watching me. Okay, so we lost over 10% of square foot. However, the revenue only decreased by 1%. That is testament to revenue management, my friends. I'm really, really pleased with that. I'm going to put that. I wasn't actually just got a text from my wife while I'm doing a calculator saying I've got a haircut appointment tomorrow at 10:30 in the morning. So yes, I'm really, really happy with that. It's testament to revenue management. Revenue management is real. It works. So like I say, we lost over 10% in square foot. Well, so 12, I don't know, over 10% in square foot, but we've only lost 1% in revenue. And that's purely because we've become more aggressive. So my predictions. So we took 870,000 in 2023. I believe it's going to be over 950K revenue in 2024. So that's my prediction. Beverly. Okay, so Beverly, we took 158,000 in 2022. In 2023, we took 179,000. The difference was nearly £21,000 in positive. So we took more in 2023. Now, the reason for that is because our revenue management is good, but Beverly is a high occupancy store. So there's not too much fluctuations. For example, the difference in square footage between 2022 and 2023 is 505 square foot. Again, if you look at the difference, the increase, here we go, 21,000 divided by 158,000. It's a 13% increase. A 13% increase in revenue. And it was, so we gained 505 square foot, 505 divided by 450. It wasn't even 1%. It was 8%. That's wrong. 1 second. I'm going to pause this. Bloody hell. I'm going to pause it again. 1 second. Yes, I'm back. So it was an 8% increase in square footage, but it was a 13% increase in revenue. Again, that is the power of revenue management. If we look at the results of SafeStore on Big Yellow, that is exactly the same as happening over there. The occupancy has decreased, but the revenue has increased. So yeah, really, really positive there. Again, revenue management. Now I'm going to have to read this from Clough Road. Yeah, we can't. It's incredibly difficult to compare. So in 2022, don't forget we only opened in January 2022. We took 151,000. That's including VAT, by the way, because we can't. I haven't stripped out that from the straight payments. And we finished on, excuse me, 9,775 square foot. 2023, we finished on 298,000. So yeah, a massive increase, doubled the revenue. But get this, we only increased the square footage to 11,690. So we only increased the square foot, but that's mental, by 2,000. Well, 1,915. So we increased the square footage by 1,915 divided by 9,775 by 20%. But we increased the revenue by, this is mental, by 100%. Anyway, so it just shows you that, yes, we can lose square footage, but if you, it's a really warning sign to people, because most companies, independents, I believe, if you lose square footage, then your revenue will go down because you aren't correctly doing your price increases, your revenue management, etc. And so it's a real lesson there, because you are going to have good times and bad times. There's going to be times when occupancy dips. However, we always, because of inflation, the cost of living, etc., your prices are always going to increase. The rent is always going to, my rent is, because we lease, so the rent is always going to increase. And so we need to be increasing that revenue. If we're not, we're going backwards. And so it's a timely reminder that, yes, occupancy can dip, but revenue shouldn't dip. And to be honest, we only started this new revenue management system probably in September time. And it's made a massive difference to the latter quarter of the year. And so at Willoughby. And so, yes, we did lose £10,000 in terms of revenue, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't think that's too bad, because I know that next year we're going to increase that. And if we'd have done the new revenue management from the start of the year, from January, then I've got no doubt that that would be 900 plus. 900,000 instead of 870. So the message here is, make sure that you are doing your price increases. My wife said to me, you can't do a price increase in January. Why can't we? Of course we can. That's the business model. We can't stop a price increase 1 month and do it another one. We've got to be consistent. If we're my prices go up, your prices go up. So why can't we do a price increase? Yep. So revenue management is key. Square footage has gone down in 2022. Well, not at Beverley, but overall. But I do expect in 2024, I expect a net positive. I really expect a really, really good year. And it'll be really interesting to look back on this podcast and this newsletter and see in 2025 how 2020, I get all nervous even thinking about it, how 2024 has been. And yeah, I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be a good year. Anyway, I've got loads and loads and loads of good content on the newsletter this week. I've mapped it all out today. I sat in a coffee shop for like 3 or 4 hours, mapped out all the content for the rest of this week and next week. And there's some, even if I do say so myself, there's some really, really good content. I really, really enjoy doing the research, looking into it. And yeah, there's something Mark Poole said that was really good, and that's coming out soon. And it just simplifies the way you think of self-storage. If you don't know, Mark Poole is on LinkedIn, is a brilliant self-storage operator. Very, very, very intelligent. He's one of the only people I do that bell thing on LinkedIn. So every single time he does a post, I get notified about it because the content is so good. And I learn a lot from him. So yeah, it was something he said that I'm giving him full credit for. And I've kind of run with it and put my stamp on it, because obviously in America, it's not 100% transferable what happens in America to England. So I put my stamp on it for the UK market. And yeah, I really, really, I probably spent about an hour on that one bit of content, but I really enjoyed it. Anyway, my friends, I'm going to stop gabbing because I've got to pack, got to do things. And yeah, I'll see you Friday. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Right. Loads of man love, loads of self-storage love. I'll see you on Friday. Bye-bye.